Hello and welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, your guide to navigating life's complexities with clarity and inner peace, especially for those of us over 40 who've seen a thing or two. Today, we're diving into a common saying that many find comforting, but one that actually isn't rooted in Buddhist teachings: everything happens for a reason. We'll explore why this phrase, while well-intentioned, can sometimes lead us astray and what Buddhism offers instead, a more grounded and ultimately more liberating perspective. Now, before we proceed, if you're finding value in this content, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more people who could benefit from these insights. We would appreciate it. The phrase, "everything happens for a reason," is something you've likely heard during challenging times. Perhaps after a job loss, the end of a relationship, or a period of confusion. It's often offered as a source of comfort, a way to make sense of the seemingly senseless. Maybe you've even whispered it to yourself, desperately seeking a solid anchor in a sea of uncertainty. The inherent appeal lies in the sense of order and purpose it suggests. No matter how painful or chaotic life becomes, the phrase hints at a hidden thread, a grand design weaving through it all. It promises that even in the darkest moments, there's a reason, a purpose, a hidden benefit waiting to be revealed. It brings solace, perhaps, but also can bring confusion. The surprising truth is that this pervasive idea isn't actually a core tenet of Buddhism. The Buddha never claimed that your pain has some predetermined cosmic meaning. He didn't say that you were being tested or that your suffering was part of a divine plan. Instead, he offered something far more practical, more immediate. When we're hurting, our minds naturally search for answers. Why me? What does this mean? Is there a hidden lesson here? This instinct is deeply human. We're storytellers. We yearn to weave narratives that make sense of the world around us, especially when chaos seems to reign. And when clear answers are elusive, we often create them, not out of deception, but out of a deep-seated need to feel safe, to regain a sense of control. Then there are the modern sayings. Modern spirituality and self-help culture often amplify this need, echoing similar sentiments with phrases like, "The universe is teaching you something. You attracted this experience into your life. There are no accidents. This happened so you could grow." These messages are often presented as empowering, suggesting that everything, even our most painful experiences, has a higher purpose. And in moments of fear or helplessness, that belief can feel like a lifeline, a life raft in stormy seas. It gives pain a reason, a justification, and in doing so, offers a glimmer of control. But if we look closely, a subtle shift occurs. Like this video and subscribe to the channel if this is starting to resonate with you, and help us reach more people. The pain doesn't magically vanish, it simply gets wrapped in layers of meaning. Instead of fully experiencing grief, we analyze it. Instead of confronting fear, we try to transmute it into insight, into a learning experience. It might masquerade as wisdom, but often, it's a subtle form of avoidance, a way to distance ourselves from the raw, uncomfortable feelings. Imagine a woman who loses her job. Rather than allowing herself to grieve the loss, to acknowledge the fear of uncertainty, she immediately tells herself, "This must be the universe guiding me towards something better, something more aligned with my true purpose." Or a man receives a serious medical diagnosis and says, "This is my body's way of teaching me to slow down, to prioritize my health." Now there's a trap here. Sometimes, this interpretation might be genuinely helpful, a way to find a silver lining and motivate positive change. But often, it's a comforting story we tell ourselves to soften the harsh edges of reality, a way to protect ourselves from fully feeling the sharpness of what is, from truly experiencing the pain. The Buddha took a different path. He didn't say suffering happens for a reason. He said it happens because specific conditions are present. That might sound similar at first, but it represents a radically different worldview. To seek a reason is to search for purpose, for a kind of preordained cosmic script. To see conditions is to look at the actual causes, the real, observable, and tangible factors at play. It's not about fate, but about patterns. Not about punishment, but about process. A seed grows into a tree not because the universe desires a tree in that particular spot, but because it receives the necessary soil, sunlight, and water. A person becomes ill not because they need a lesson, but perhaps because of accumulated stress, poor diet, environmental factors, or genetic predispositions. There is no judgment in this view, just causality, just the interplay of forces. The Buddha said, all experience is preceded by mind. Led by mind. Made by mind. This doesn't mean our thoughts magically create our world, bending reality to our will. It means the quality of our mind, our intentions, and our awareness, shapes our actions. Those actions, repeated over time, become habits. And those habits, in turn, shape the unfolding of our life. In this way, the mind is both the beginning and the builder of our experience. But this doesn't imply a divine storyteller meticulously scripting your path. There is no cosmic author assigning pain for your growth. There is just life, arising and fading according to conditions, moment by moment. At first, this might sound cold, even disheartening. It strips away comforting beliefs and leaves us with what is. But look again, it's actually a form of deep compassion. Think about it, if you're watching this video, and you understand these things, it will make a change in your life. Because if suffering isn't destined or deserved, then we don't have to carry the weight of shame or guilt. And if suffering has identifiable causes, then it also has potential solutions. Instead of endlessly asking, why did this happen to me? Buddhism invites a different, more empowering question. What conditions are present right now, and how can I respond with wisdom and compassion? This is not detachment, it's not indifference. It's clarity, and clarity is the foundation of freedom. This is something you may want to discuss with others. If you have found this helpful so far, please subscribe and like the video, if you have not already. In Buddhist teachings, there's a fundamental principle called dependent origination, or paticca samuppada in Pali. It might sound technical, but its meaning is remarkably simple and profound. The Buddha articulated it like this: when this is, that is. From the arising of this, comes the arising of that. When this isn't, that isn't. From the ceasing of this, comes the ceasing of that. It's not flowery language or poetic metaphors, it's a direct observation of how life actually works. Everything we experience arises because specific conditions allow it to arise. Nothing appears in isolation, nothing exists independently. And when those conditions shift or fall away, what once seemed solid and permanent simply fades. Consider a forest fire. We might instinctively ask, why did this fire happen? But a fire isn't the result of a single cause, a single moment of misfortune. It's the culmination of many elements coming together, a complex interplay of conditions: dry wood, ample oxygen, a source of heat, a prevailing wind. Remove any one of those elements, and the fire won't ignite. There's no mysterious reason behind it, no hidden agenda. There are only conditions, some visible, some hidden, aligning in just the right way. Our emotional lives are no different. Your current mood, that feeling that seems so personal and internal, is actually built from countless threads, from a vast web of interconnected conditions: how well you slept last night, what you ate for breakfast, what thoughts have been circling in your mind, the tone of a conversation you had yesterday, the weather outside, the way someone looked at you this morning. Change even one element, and the feeling might shift completely. To make this idea even more relatable, imagine your life as a garden. This can put a new perspective on things. The seeds represent your past choices, your ingrained habits, the patterns you've consciously or unconsciously planted over time. The soil, sunlight, water, and climate represent your current surroundings, your physical health, your mental state, the people around you, your work, your environment. And the fruit, the harvest? That's your present experience, the reality you're living right now. It grows not because someone decided you deserved it, not because it was written in the stars, but because of the seeds and the conditions at play. Here's the fundamental shift: there is no cosmic gardener pulling the strings, no higher power choosing what you go through. What grows because conditions allow it. But here's the hope, the empowering truth: you can influence which seeds you plant today. You can consciously choose to nurture certain sprouts, ignore others, enrich the soil, or diligently pull out the weeds. This is where Buddhist teachings on karma become relevant and powerful. Karma, so often misunderstood as fate or divine punishment, isn't about either. It's simply the natural outcome of intentional action. Here is an insight for you: kindness tends to create more kindness. Resentment tends to breed more resentment. Not because someone is keeping score, but because our actions shape our habits, and those habits, in turn, shape our world. Closely tied to this is the Buddha's teaching on anatta, often translated as no self. This isn't to deny your existence or invalidate your experience. It challenges the ingrained idea that there's a fixed, unchanging you at the center of it all, a separate self who's being constantly tested, judged, or guided through life. Instead, what we commonly call you is really just a dynamic stream of experiences, conditions, and responses, arising and fading moment by moment. Understanding this shifts everything. Pain no longer feels like a personal attack, a punishment directed solely at you. It becomes something arising through you, something more akin to weather passing through a valley. It's still real, it's still valid. But it's not personal in the way we often assume. And that seemingly simple shift in perspective opens up space for clarity, for compassion, and for conscious choice. There's an old Zen story that beautifully illustrates this point. A student asks a master, "Why do bad things happen to good people?" The master simply replies, "Bad things happen. Good things happen." People make stories about why. The Buddha would likely nod in agreement. Life isn't meticulously handing out experiences based on merit or assigning lessons based on perceived growth potential. It's unfolding, as it always has, through the intricate dance of causes and conditions. And the invitation is not to desperately try to control that dance, or to find perfect meaning in every single step, but to understand it, to see it clearly. Because when we see clearly how conditions work, we can start to shape them. Not from a place of fear, not from a place of fantasy or wishful thinking, but from a place of grounded awareness. If you've enjoyed this channel so far, and found this video helpful, please subscribe and like the video. We would love to have you as a regular here. There's a subtle trick the mind often plays: instead of facing pain directly, it cloaks it in a spiritual explanation, a seemingly profound justification. This happened for a reason, we declare, not because we've genuinely understood the complexities of the event, but because we desperately want to escape its stinging discomfort. You lose your job, and rather than admit that you're shaken, uncertain, or even a little bit angry, you proclaim, "The universe is guiding me elsewhere, toward a career that truly aligns with my soul's purpose." A relationship ends, and before the grief even has a chance to surface, to be acknowledged, you say, "I was meant to learn independence, to become a stronger, more self-sufficient person." These ideas might sound wise on the surface, but more often than not, they're just polished masks we wear to avoid confronting the raw, uncomfortable truths. This pattern has a specific name: spiritual bypassing. The psychologist John Welwood coined the term to describe the way people sometimes use spiritual beliefs and practices to sidestep or suppress unresolved emotional issues, to avoid facing their own emotional reality. It's not genuine enlightenment, it's evasion dressed up as insight. Carl Jung warned of a similar danger in his extensive work on the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, or simply refuse to acknowledge. In Buddhism, this kind of self-imposed blindness is called avijja, often translated as ignorance. Not ignorance as in a lack of intellectual knowledge, but ignorance as a deliberate turning away from what is, a refusal to see things as they truly are. When we cling to the idea that everything happens for a reason, we might be inadvertently turning away from what truly needs our attention. We turn away from real causes. Maybe the job was lost due to corporate mismanagement, or perhaps due to broader economic factors. Maybe the relationship ended because we consistently avoided difficult conversations, or because our fundamental values simply no longer aligned. Honest reflection, true self-assessment, is undoubtedly more difficult than resorting to magical thinking, but it's also infinitely more transformative. We turn away from real emotions. Grief, sadness, confusion, fear, these aren't flaws in the system. They're necessary, natural responses to loss, change, and uncertainty. To skip over them, to suppress them, is to postpone healing. And we turn away from real responsibility. Sometimes we played a significant role in what went wrong. Sometimes we didn't. Either way, true growth begins when we stop assigning cosmic meaning and start taking honest stock of the conditions that shaped our lives, our choices, and our experiences. There's a powerful story in the Buddhist texts about a woman named Kisa Gotami. After the devastating loss of her infant son, she was completely consumed by grief. She carried his lifeless body from house to house, desperately begging for a cure. Someone eventually directed her to the Buddha. With profound compassion, the Buddha listened to her story. Then he gave her a seemingly impossible task. "I can help you," he said, "but first, bring me a mustard seed from a household that has never known death." She set off, initially hopeful, but as she went from door to door, the heart-wrenching truth began to dawn on her. Every home had known loss, every family had experienced the pain of death. A mother, a father, a child, no one was spared. Slowly, painfully, she began to see death wasn't a punishment, not a sign from the universe, not some personalized karmic lesson designed specifically for her. It was simply an unavoidable part of the human condition. In that moment, her overwhelming grief began to widen into wisdom, into a deeper understanding of the nature of life. She didn't return to the Buddha with a mustard seed. She returned with understanding, with a newfound clarity. The Buddha never gave her a reason for her son's death. He didn't offer comfort through superficial explanation. Instead, he offered her the opportunity to see suffering without the distorting lens of personal injustice, to see clearly, not symbolically. And that clarity is what initiated her healing, her journey toward peace. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you found this illuminating. This is how Buddhism approaches suffering. Not as something to be explained away with feel-good spiritual slogans, but as something to be seen directly, to be met with open-hearted presence. Suffering isn't dressed up with divine plans or hidden meanings, it's stripped down to its real causes and met with genuine compassion. The Buddha once said, "Do not overlook tiny good deeds, thinking they're useless." It's a quiet but radical shift in focus. Instead of constantly asking, "Why did this happen to me?" we gently shift our attention to the present moment and ask, "What can I do right now that is kind, honest, or skillful?" That's where healing truly begins. Spiritual bypassing promises immediate relief, but it ultimately delays real transformation. It offers answers prematurely, before the questions have been fully lived, fully explored. Buddhism doesn't rush that essential process. It invites you to stay present, to look clearly, to feel fully. And in doing so, to awaken not from pain, but through it, to find wisdom and resilience in the heart of your experience. That's what wisdom and wealth is about. The Buddha once told a story about a man struck by a poisoned arrow. But instead of focusing on removing the arrow, the man became consumed with questions. Who shot the arrow? What caste was he from? What kind of bow was used? Why was he specifically targeted? The Buddha pointed out the obvious: if the man continued to wait for all those questions to be answered, he would die long before any healing could even begin. The real work wasn't in understanding the attacker, but in removing the arrow and tending to the wound. This story isn't just about physical pain, it's a powerful mirror for how we often deal with emotional and existential suffering. We often become so preoccupied with figuring out why something painful happened, instead of responding to what's actually happening in the present moment. Buddhism invites us to gently stop chasing elusive explanations and begin the direct work of healing. First, pause the question, "Why me?" When suffering arises, the mind immediately scrambles to make sense of it. We ask, what did I do wrong, or what is this trying to teach me? We search for a lesson, a message, a hidden purpose. But these questions, while understandable, are rarely helpful in the initial stages. They keep us trapped in the realm of thought, while the wound continues to bleed in silence. Instead, Buddhism offers something radical in its simplicity: just observe. This is sadness. This is fear. This is tension in the body. This is a painful thought. We label, not to judge or analyze, but to create a little space, a little distance. We become witnesses to our own experience instead of being completely consumed by it. This first step isn't about fixing or understanding, it's about simply being with what is, about acknowledging its presence without resistance. Second, see the conditions clearly. Once we've paused the initial urge to interpret, we can begin to look at the causes, not cosmic reasons, but practical conditions. Are we exhausted? Is our body under constant stress? Are our relationships supportive or strained? Are our habits helping us or harming us? These questions aren't about placing blame, they're about gaining clarity. Conditions aren't moral judgments, they're simply patterns. And patterns, once seen, can be changed. In this view, suffering isn't a test that we're meant to pass, it's a system of causes and effects. When we understand the system, we gain the power to intervene with wisdom and care. Third, plant new seeds. Understanding the conditions that led to our pain is liberating, but Buddhism doesn't stop there. It hands us the power to create new conditions, starting right now, in this very moment. This is where the principle of karma moves from being a philosophical theory into a practical lifeline. It simply means that our next action matters. In the midst of intense suffering, this is not a burden, but an incredible opportunity. It means that even when we feel powerless over what has happened in the past, we have agency over our response in the present. We don't need to feel better to act better. We don't need to have all the answers to choose a more skillful path. The practice is to plant one good seed, right here in the difficult soil of the present moment. Take 3 conscious breaths. Speak gently to someone. Do one small thing that reduces harm. Choose rest. Choose honesty. Choose kindness. These aren't grand gestures, they're seeds. And over time, they have the power to change the soil of our lives. Fourth, be at peace with not knowing. Still, some forms of suffering resist explanation. Terrible things happen, a child dies, a friend betrays us, illness strikes without warning. We search for reasons, but often there are none that truly satisfy. Buddhism doesn't offer a cheap slogan to fill that profound silence. Instead, it offers a profound practice, learning to be comfortable within the silence itself. It is the practice of letting the unanswerable question hang in the air, releasing the desperate need to resolve it. True healing, in the Buddhist view, doesn't begin with understanding why we were wounded. It begins with seeing clearly what is wounded, and gently, patiently, doing the work of care, without needing the universe's permission. Wisdom and Wealth hopes to help you find new ways to look at things that are going on in your life, and provide some guidance. We appreciate your attention, and hope that you will like this video and subscribe to the channel. The Buddha never claimed to explain suffering through some grand cosmic plan. He didn't say you were chosen for pain, or that everything happens for a spiritual reason. What he offered was something far more radical, and far more helpful, a clear path to the end of suffering. This is the heart of the Buddhist path. Not mystery, not blind faith, but direct understanding. And it begins with what are known as the Four Noble Truths, a map not for explaining life, but for transforming how we live it. First truth, life contains suffering. The Buddha didn't say that life is suffering. He said that life contains suffering. And that's a crucial difference. Pain, loss, illness, aging, disappointment, separation, these aren't punishments. They're part of what it means to be alive in a human body, with a human heart. Instead of treating suffering as a sign that something has gone wrong, Buddhism treats it as something to understand. You're not broken because you feel grief. You're not failing because you feel fear. You're just human. Seeing that clearly is the beginning of peace. Second truth, suffering has causes. Suffering doesn't come from fate, or karma as punishment, or some hidden lesson in disguise. It comes from identifiable causes. We suffer because we crave what we don't have, reject what we do have, and misunderstand the nature of things. You grieve, but also think, I shouldn't feel this anymore. That's craving, for your feelings to be different. You feel anxiety, and you numb it or push it away. That's aversion. You believe your sadness means something is wrong with you. That's ignorance, misunderstanding a natural process as a personal flaw. Buddhism doesn't blame you for these habits. It simply names them, and in naming them, gives you the power to change how you relate to them. Third truth, suffering can end. This isn't some naive promise that life becomes painless. It's something more honest. Even when pain continues, suffering, the mental struggle we pile on top of pain, can come to an end. You can learn to meet fear without panic. To sit with loss without believing it defines you. You can stop feeding the fire of resistance and let something quieter, wiser, begin to emerge. Peace isn't the absence of difficulty. It's the presence of freedom within it. Fourth truth, there's a path. The Buddha didn't leave us with ideas alone. He left a path, a detailed, practical guide called the Noble Eightfold Path. It includes ethical living, mindfulness, right effort, and the cultivation of wisdom. Not to earn peace, but to practice it, step by step. Modern science continues to affirm what Buddhism taught over 2,500 years ago. Mindfulness reduces anxiety. Compassion practices rewire the brain. Meditation builds emotional resilience. The path isn't just ancient, it's neurologically real. You don't need to understand the mystery of existence to take a single wise step. You don't need to solve the universe to breathe more gently right now, or to speak more kindly to someone you love. The practice is simple. The effect is profound. A student once asked a teacher, "What is the meaning of life?" The teacher picked up a glass of water and handed it to the student. "What's the meaning of this glass?" The student hesitated. The teacher smiled. "When you're thirsty, you drink. The meaning is in the drinking." Buddhism is like that. You don't need to make pain meaningful to respond with compassion. You don't need to justify confusion to begin developing clarity. The practice is the meaning. It reveals itself through doing, not through overthinking. The Buddha's final words were simple: all compounded things are impermanent. Work diligently for your liberation. He didn't promise to make life understandable. He promised a way to find freedom in the midst of its uncertainty. Not through explanations, but through presence. Not through belief, but through action. Buddhism doesn't offer a cosmic answer to your pain. It doesn't ask you to turn suffering into a grand narrative. It asks, what's the next wise step you can take? And then it reminds you, that step is always here. Always now. And Wisdom and Wealth hopes to help you find the way. If you have enjoyed this video, and hopefully found it helpful, please like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your attention.